Okay, this is a video on chapter 4 of Stephen Covey's very famous and influential book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Chapter 4 is called Win-Win, and it's all about building relationships. So if you remember, chapters 1, 2 and 3 are all about private victories, about becoming independent. Chapters 4, 5 and 6 are all about interdependency, so that is public victories. So it's about how you can synergize with other people, collaborate and cooperate to become thousands of times more effective. So in Stephen Covey's view, you first have to become independent. You have to develop the character and the plan and the goals that you want to achieve. You have to first of all have a vision for how your life will play out, and what you want to be in 40, 50, 60 or so years time. And then chapters 4, 5 and 6 are about how you can work with other people to achieve those dreams, and build on the diversity, on the talents, the skills, the attributes of other people. It occurred to me a few days ago as well, thinking about why it is in history we have something called urbanization, which is the mass movement of people from villages, little towns, into big urban centres, into cities. And the question is, why are cities more affluent, more prosperous? Why is there more money in the city? Why are cities richer than villages? The answer is not obvious, because it's not simply a case of there are more people in the city, because that also means there's more expenditure. There are also more costs involved. For example, cities are going to need garbage collection, sewage systems, policing systems, cleaning around the city. They're going to require a lot of expenses by virtue of being more populated. But there's something about the synergy between people, and that people working together, the relationship between people multiplies the talents that they have. So there's a compounding and accumulation of the contributions that people can make when they combine their efforts. That's simply not additive. It's not like you can have 5 people and just add up 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 and get 10. There's something about the fusion of talents that actually leads to a total greater than the sum of the individual parts. There's some kind of multiplication that's going on when people work cooperatively. And so this chapter 4, I think Win-Win, is all about working with people in a mutually beneficial way. He talks about how there are a number of possibilities when people get together. So many people, for example, most people in his view, have a win-lose mentality. They kind of have the mentality of scarcity, and they see the world as being a competition. So in their dealings with other people in the workplace, they kind of looking to outdo everyone else. They want to have a bigger television. They want to have a bigger car. They see the world as being there's a limited amount of money, and it's a competition to get the biggest piece of the pie. And what Stephen Covey says in the book is that this is not necessarily the case, because there's plenty of resources, there's plenty of wealth that can be shared, that can be created. So actually, a higher way of thinking is to see abundance, plenty of opportunities, plenty of material wealth to go around. So thinking about the abundance mentality, that lends itself well to the win-win mindset, because what he's advocating is that when people enter into agreements, for example, if they go for a job, they want to go into that interview ideally with the attitude of, okay, I want to work for this organisation, and you want this organisation to be successful. We both want the organisation to be successful because we're both going to benefit from the success of the organisation. And if it's not clear that there is going to be a win-win, that the two people are not going to benefit, going to be rewarded, then it's better, in his view, to go for no deal. So either we both benefit, or there's no deal. We're not going to enter into some kind of agreement. He also says that a lot of people have a lose-win mentality. That is, some people, they're sort of used to being treated like a doormat, and they just accept that people walk all over them. And this can create sort of a habit, or a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-belief, that it's their kind of lot in life to be at the bottom or at the back of the race, and they kind of just accept it because mentally that's where they're at. But they need to change their mindset and think about how they can win and how they can benefit, not at the expense of others. The point of this chapter is all about you should want other people to win. We can all benefit from other people being successful, creating new businesses, creating new companies, creating new products and services, and we should want to take advantage and enjoy the fruits of everyone's labour, without necessarily wanting to steal, and take from what other people have. It's about contributing and recognising that everyone has a unique contribution to make, and that in combining efforts, going back to the idea of the city, the output can be so many more times greater when many people are working together and are aligned to the same purpose. One of the things he talks about in this chapter is getting the system and the incentives correct. He talks about how he went into a number of organisations that became highly politicised, lots of infighting. The employees weren't listening to the management, and there was a kind of us and them mentality. But he talks about how it's important to implement and design systems within the workplace that encourage people to work together harmoniously. And one of the ways to do this is to create impersonal goals, objective goals, where people are not compared to each other. So they're not compared or competing against each other, because if this is the case, many systems are like this. A few people will win, but the majority will feel left out. They'll feel hard done by, and possibly even resentful, and this creates a political dynamic. But he talks about how in the book it's important to make the goals and the objectives as clear as possible, so that everyone will want to work hard. So, for example, if everyone gets a bonus of 10%, say, then everyone is going by meeting an objective that the company as a whole increases profits, then everyone is going to want to work harder, to contribute, to think about how they can work with each other in order to increase the profitability of a company. So it's about designing systems that foster collaboration rather than competition. It does say competition, there's a place for competition in the world. So between companies, for example, consumers benefit greatly from the competition between the supermarkets, because in the UK we have Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, the Cooperative, Iceland's. All of these supermarkets are competing against each other, and this is great for consumers. It brings the price down, because in order to increase their market share, they have to offer good value. They have to offer the best prices, and with the internet, people can just check. They can compare the prices of supermarkets, and so this is great for consumers. And there's competition between supermarkets or restaurants, or between companies within a free market system. It's obviously good, because it causes them to think about how they can put the customer first, the needs of the customer, and improve the products and services that they're trying to sell. So competition in a free market system is essential, and it serves the evolution and the development and the progress of society, because the companies are constantly improving. But it's not the case that competition within the workplace is an optimal strategy to go for, because there's a lot more to be gained from synergy, from people incentivized to work together collaboratively and build on the unique talents, characteristics and attributes that each person has to offer. And it's very difficult to actually attain this in practice. It does depend on trust. The management have to build a high trust environment where they have faith in the employees to deliver, and they have trust in the system as a whole, that people will be encouraged to work hard and give their best, do their best for the company to succeed. And if the system has in place the correct incentives, then this will naturally be more likely to be the case, because everyone wants to earn more money, everyone wants a bonus, and they want to be treated fairly, and for goals to be objective and outside the judgment, the subjective view of the bosses, the supervisors. If people have faith and trust that the system is set up for one reason only, and that is to, be successful objectively and independently, then people will want to work hard. They'll have trust in the system. So quite an obvious point made in the book about think win-win. I think the real magic of it and the real utility of it is actually putting it into practice, because it's easy to sit here and say, well, you need to build cooperative relationships with others. It's obvious. as a thought, as an idea, but actually implementing it and acting upon it and putting it into practice, this is the most difficult thing. It's hard to get it right, and partly he says because we're so sort of indoctrinated into the the win-lose mentality, where people see life as one big competition, dog eats dog, the rat race. People look at sports and they think that life is, like a game of football. One team wins, the other team has to lose. And they see, life as being like nature, where it's all about competition and outdoing other people. But actually there's much more to be gained in collaboration. We are a social animal. Ultimately, we are best when we're working together, in families, in teams, in groups, through communication. Communication is extremely important. He regularly stresses the importance of being able to articulate in a transparent and open way your ideas, and thinking about what other people want, one of the clear ways to build trust and to get to win-win. You have to think about the other person's perspective. What do they actually want? How do they see things? What are they going to gain? Why are they upset about this arrangement? Generally try hard to see it through their eyes and then let them know. Try to tell them, this is what you think. I'm trying to understand your point of view. Am I getting this right? And once you sort of understand where they're coming from, then there's more possibility for coming to an agreement that you both can win from, you both can gain. He gives examples in the chapter of very destructive ways of thinking as well. Some people can sort of go into lose-lose. He talks about cases of divorces where there was one particular case where the judge ordered, in this case, the man to sell the assets and give half the proceeds to the wife. So he had to sell the assets, the cars, the house, the furniture, and give half the money to the wife, and became so destructive. He was selling, a car that was worth $4,000, for £100, because he became embroiled in a kind of lose-lose mentality. And he lost out because, of course, he's going to get half the money. So he's, cutting off his nose to spite his face, so to speak. He's damaging his own prospects because he became so angry in this particular case. And he gives other examples in the chapter of lose-win. There are cases where lose-win, win-lose, it might work out in the short term, but people are going to feel disgruntled. They're going to feel that like there's been injustice, like they've been taken for a ride, that the person's not being fair to them, and it will manifest later on down the line. So you might think like you're winning because you got one over on someone, but that will very likely come back. That person's not going to be happy. They're going to go away. They'll be gossiping and talking about things with other people, and then you'll get a negative response. There's a cost to implementing a win-lose strategy. It's not always immediate, but later on down the line, even with customers, if a restaurant is overcharging customers and not giving them a decent meal, decent bang for their buck, they might eat the meal. They might even come back a week later, but the customer in the long term is if he's not happy or she's not happy with, the product or the service or the way he was spoken to by the manager, he might go elsewhere. He's not happy with that relationship. So it's important to try to think about the other person's perspective as much as possible. And in that way, long-term relationships, which can be incredibly prosperous, incredibly successful, this is how they can be maintained through trust and maturity. One of the things he talks about is maturity is consideration of others, and you have to be courageous and considerate. In order to go for the win-win, you've got to take a little bit of a risk. You've got to say, I'm not going to accept this deal unless I'm going to get, treated fairly. And I want you to be happy. I want you to be successful. I want us to build a successful relationship. It takes some degree of courage, and of course, it's easier if one has built the character, the skills base, knowledge and understanding, have gone through the process of self-development to put them in a position where no deal is a viable alternative to accepting a deal which is not aligned to their goals and what they want to achieve in life. So I thought I'll just leave that with you today, but it all comes from this book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's been a great read so far. There are 6 chapters in total, so this is chapter 4. This video is about chapter 4, and I'll be covering chapters 5 and 6 in the next 2 weeks, so do stay tuned. Thank you very much.